SM, running the SM, the market operator, and the governance arm, which is PEMC.
Yes.
But in the ERC resolution, the last ERC resolution on market fees, they tend to consider only one entity. Kumbaga, off the record naman to, pagkasyahin namin yung pera namin, kaming dalawa, pagkasyahin namin doon sa greenant nila.
Got it.
So,
Okay.
paano naman kami makakakaroon po ng quality of people to retain, quality of services to do, if sakal na sakal ho yung budget namin.
Okay.
So, that is one of the reason of our proposal in the lower house, Madam Chair, if it would be possible to put in the IPIRA a provision where our market fees will not be less than 1 centavo per kilowatt hour, and then the same be reviewed every 3 or 5 years based on consumer price index.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Okay. Oh, no, like I said, I have to be, we have to be disciplined in the issues that we take up. But I don't mind that you bring up any EPIRA-related issue because the hearing does include that, but the focus will be ERC. So you have made also your main comment for that, which is the rulemaking power, and then you just mentioned now itong proposal nyo sa House. So I'll repeat, kung ano man yung proposal nyo sa House na gusto nyo dito, you have to submit it separately here because we look at the proposals that you submit directly to us, no? Thank you. Okay.
Yes,
Sige.
Madam Chair, we will
Thank you.
submit.
Okay. So let's go now to Independent Electricity Market Operator, Attorney Nethercott.
Yes. Good afternoon, Madam Chairperson. Good afternoon also to Senator Gatchalian. So, ma'am, we have no specific comments right now on the specific provisions embodied in the several Senate bills insofar as the ERC provisions are concerned. No? But we would like to manifest our support for the general purpose of these bills so far as it tends to strengthen the ERC as an organization. The concern of the market, as already verbalized, articulated by Attorney Nidea, is on Section 30, particularly, part of it is, of course, market fees. What we intend to do is to just submit our position paper on the matter because, as the chairperson has already mentioned, we will first tackle ERC. But we are in full support of the purpose or the intention of these bills to strengthen the ERC, Your Honor. And we will support the committee with submissions of data, information, and whatever other submissions that will be required of us. That is all in the meantime, Your Honor.
Just to be clear, no, when I mentioned earlier that if it's a non-related ERC concern that you have on EPIRA, you can verbalize it now, in general. You can write it as a position paper, or sometimes I know it's very, for lack of a better word, madugo. So you can also approach my staff and request for a meeting, and we can chat about it also. Okay, just to be clear, it's just that I'm trying to manage the few hours that we have here to focus on specific amendments that I need to hear from you on ERC strengthening. So thank you.
Thank you po, ma'am.
Okay.
On the topic of si Attorney Nidea, I remember may Supreme Court ruling na yan, di ba? Yung decoupling ng governance and ng operation.
Yes, Senator.
And how come ERC is not? I remember you applied for rates, no? And the issue there before was ERC is not recognizing that two entities, no? But that has been long settled.
The decision is on appeal.
That decision-
ERC filed an appeal.
So ERC filed an appeal with the Supreme Court. So it's not yet final.
May I answer, Senator Gatchalian, please? Your Honor, the Supreme Court has already ruled on the motion for reconsideration. That case has already become final. No? There's already an entry of judgment. In that case, the Supreme Court actually upheld the policy direction of the DOE insofar as it mandated the transition, no, from the then PEMC to an independent market operator and the maintenance of a governance arm. So basically, allowing for the two-entity setup in the WSM at present. Now, the ERC, the last ruling of the ERC, insofar as market fees is concerned, is for the year 2018. That decision by the ERC is under reconsideration. We filed a motion for reconsideration. Actually, PEMC at that time was the applicant. What is pending right now are market fees decisions for 2019, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. But in fairness to the ERC, for the year 2023, they have impliedly allowed for the two-entity setup to proceed in the WSM. But unfortunately, as of this time, the market fee level is still insufficient, no, for the proper maintenance of the market. The 2024 application, we heard, is already under consideration and might be issued before the end of the year. So we're looking forward that it will approve, at least on a provisional, through a provisional authority, an approved level, so that the market can proceed funding its operations, Mr. Chairman. So the short answer to your question is the ERC still resisting the Supreme Court decision. The short answer is yes, because the last ruling that they issued, no, prior to 2023 provisional authority, is that they're recognizing one entity, and the WSM should only be operated by one entity. And it is contrary to what the Supreme Court has already decided on. And that is still under motion for reconsideration. Perhaps the Commission will, we don't know how Commission will later on rule on that, Mr. Chairman.
Ang tanong ko lang kay Commissioner Resi or sa ano, did the rate increase after the two entities?
The rate po, Mr. Chairman, no. Actually,
Is it the same rate is divided into two, or now there's an increase in rate because there's two entities?
there were years that it actually went down, Your Honor.
Despite the two entities.
Yes. For the year 2023, they allowed the provisional authority a level of around 648, if I'm not mistaken, Your Honors. That increase actually as compared to years 2017. No, because it was an approval for 2017 and 2018, but it was applied actually for the years 22 and 23, and the level set for those years was 400 something million, 420 million. I may be mistaken on the exact figure, but it's around 400 million, Your Honors, for two entities. So that was the budget of the market for the years 22 and 23. 2022 and 2023.
To be honest about it, this is personal. My fear before, when you split into two, the rates will go up because now you have to fund two entities. One for governance, one for the operations, the market operations, the market operator. So my fear before was when you split into two, now you have to have to fund the two entities, and I think everyone had that fear during that time. But of course, the Supreme Court has already ruled into this matter, so it's just a matter of implementing it. And may I get the comments of ERC? Are you recognizing, first of all, the Supreme Court ruling?
Yes, Chair, and of course, we would like to take exception to that comment that we're resisting the Supreme Court decision. I think we are just trying to untangle the issues that have become so messed up because of the years that were involved. That's why we're still in the stage wherein we cannot have a final one. But as Dave said, we have tried to provide them with the budget every year of what they need. And sometimes we try to pick out items that they say they need to spend on that we know is required in operating the market, and take it out individually and approve it. And we shared the observation that the fear was two entities would result to higher rates. That's why when we evaluated their application, even if with two entities, what we did was to take out those that we deem as redundancy, like two positions functioning for one item. We try to take it out, but we're not resisting the Supreme Court decision. We're trying to find a way on how to implement it smoothly so that we can have a proper transition to a current market transaction fees after we have settled those pending 2018 to 2023. Thank you.
When this was being discussed, I remember making a comparison to the Philippine Stock Exchange. In fact, the Philippine Stock Exchange has only one entity, the Philippine Stock Exchange. No? Both governance and both operating the market itself. So I was asking myself, why do we need two entities for the electric power market? But that's already water under the bridge. Eh. No, oo nga. Yeah. So rule na yung Supreme Court. Eh. And I'll consult the chair regarding that particular particular policy. No, it's a policy decision at the end of the day. So I think to move forward, Commissioner Resi, I think since the Supreme Court ruling is already there, pagalawin na natin yung mga application, no? With the caveat that, of course, the rates should not double. Kasi my initial reaction at that time, because there are two entities, the rates will double. No? But if the disclosure today from the gentleman that the rates will, some of the years will go down, then let's evaluate on that premise.
Madam
We
Chair.
submit, Mr. Chair.
Madam Chair, we also would like to manifest that ever since our applications have always been limited to not to less than 1 centavo per kilowatt hour, our rate. We have always maintained that, notwithstanding that we're operating under two entity system. The rate has always been that. And I don't know if it's right, but regarding the issue of redundancy in the entity, because what happened, Madam Chair, in their evaluation was they want one HR, one finance. How could there be one HR, one finance when there are two entities? That's the redundancy, but that's the redundancy. But we have maintained, Madam Chair, the rate, our rate really. We haven't breached the 1 centavo rate.
Thank you. Let's go now to Philippine Competition Commission, Attorney Tanate.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, and to Senator Gatchalian, and to everyone. So, first of all, Madam Chair, we support the measure to amend the IPIRA or the improvement of IPIRA. But just to put forward our main comment on this measure, while the IPIRA, Madam Chair, is specific to electric power industry, it is our position that cases related to competition must remain under the Philippine Competition Commission. It may be noted, Madam Chair, that under the Philippine Competition Act, the PCC has the primary and original jurisdiction in the implementation of and enforcement of the Philippine Competition Act. And accordingly, as an independent quasi-judicial body, we firmly believe that the PCC stands in the best position to implement the objectives of this IPIRA, Madam Chair. So that's all, Madam Chair, and we will submit our detailed position paper.
Madam Chair, if I can, yeah, but may sort of, there's no MOA, no, between the ERC and the PCC insofar as handling of competition-related cases.
Correct, Senator Gatchalian.
Is that
Yeah.
enough already moving forward? Because I know in the past that there are jurisdictional issues when it comes to competition.
Yeah.
Since the chair has already ruled that we will be enhancing the charter of ERC, is it about time to institutionalize that division? And what are the pros and cons? I'm sure ERC has the I see I see the beauty of putting it in ERC because ERC has all the data. No? They collect data from everyone, no? From the power plants all the way to the utilities. And the PCC will rely on ERC on those information, no? Those data. So, what are the pros and cons by with separating the competition jurisdiction? And do you propose to already institutionalize that in the proposed measure?
Yeah, first of all, Mr. Chair, we rely, Madam Chair and Senator Gatchalian, we rely on our position based on the Philippine Competition Act, where the PCC has jurisdiction over all competition matters. So that's the first one. And secondly, it might, carving out that authority from the Philippine Competition Commission might weaken the PCC. And in this proposed measure, Senator Gatchalian, it appears that again the ERC will have jurisdiction over competition matters, which was the issue before between PCC and ERC. So I think it's okay in the IPIRA and the proposed measure to institutionalize the arrangement that we have now in our memorandum of agreement, but competition issue jurisdiction or the adjudication of competition cases must still, we think, must still be with PCC, given that we have we build the capacity and expertise already in investigating, hearing, and deciding on competition cases. Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Very interesting intervention. So it's also something that I think may be relevant to our priorities, because what we really want to come out of this hearing, and I'll repeat, it's not the only hearing, but like when you hear the other resource persons, when you hear our reactions, you can, well, raise your hand. We still have time. You know, I can hear some other views, but you can also put it in a position paper. You can talk to our staff about it. But the goal really is to have very clear jurisdictional limitations for ERC here. I mean, expand whatever scope of powers they have, but also very clearly define it. So your intervention is quite interesting to me. I'd like to get more information from both parties later on, like examples of the involvement that you've also had. Any concerns you have on their involvement? Do you just really not want them involved? But I'll save that for the round 2. But noted ang ano nyo.
If I may add, the ERC can always investigate, but if they find any competition issue, they can refer to the PCC, which is consistent with the Philippine Competition Act, because the trigger of our investigation are three types, no? So referral from the regulatory sector agencies, and then based on verified complaints by anyone, even the players, and motu proprio. So those are the three triggers. So to be consistent with the Philippine Competition Act, they can always refer the cases.
I guess that is the question. They can, but should they? Will they? Do they want to? So sana clarify natin 'yon, di ba? I think the legislative intent will be very important, and your input would be all valid, including all the other players in the industry. Okay, thank you. So let's go now to Philippine Independent Power Producers Association, Attorney Monteribano, and then please be ready after that, Reza. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Senator Gatchalian. Ma'am, we only have 3 points in the interest of time. So the first one is that we fully support the Senate bills regarding ERC strengthening. We believe that they should have at least more fiscal incentives so that they have more opportunities for capacity building to retain actually good staff. Because the energy sector is constantly evolving. So they need to keep abreast with the changes as well and compare it with other jurisdictions. So we fully support that. We support their independence, their transparency, and their accountability, particularly because the generation sector has a lot of concerns. And I will just highlight a few that has been plaguing the industry for quite some time. So number one, I think it's already been said, our PSAs, it takes years for approval. Aside from the power supply agreements, we have our point-to-point connection, which we file with the ERC as well, or what we call the P2P. Ito ma'am, ito yung mga, we front load these costs. Inuuna namin yung gastos para makapag-connect yung isang generation facility to yung transmission line po to the grid. So para hindi ma-delay ang proyekto, inuuna po namin yung cost na yan.
In other words, even before you get approval for this, you go ahead and spend and actually do the connection.
Oo,
Correct?
kasi ma'am,
Okay. Again,
yeah.
for the public to understand,
Yes.
I don't want to take time for people to understand this. So, yung nag-generate ng power, para mabigay niya yan sa consumer, kailangan siya mag-connect sa grid. May gastos yon.
Yes.
So, yung gastos mo na yon, eventually kasi, that goes into the price of the electricity. Eventually.
Yeah,
So, kaya yan, pinapaalam sa ERC.
Yes.
Tama. Ngayon si ERC, dahil alam nyo matatagalan ng pag-decide, kahit wala pa siyang approval, gagastusan nyo na yon. That's what you're saying.
Alam ni
Sometimes.
alam ni Asek Mario
No,
yan.
I'm
Yes, ma'am.
explaining this so that, like I said, a high
Maintindihan.
school student can understand this. So, ikakabit nyo yung generating company generation company will connect to the grid. May gastos na yon. And then, ano yun, mabibigyan ng provisional authority within 75 days?
Iba yung
O
point-to-point.
iba yun? Yung point-to-point, hindi kasama din sa
iba,
75?
iba yung point-to-point connection, ma'am. Kasi
Okay.
normally, kina-consider pa yan at the end of, i-evaluate pa yan kung considered siya as a transmission asset na ipapasa po yan or a connection asset. So, medyo madugo po yan. Pero yun lang, nilalabas ko lang dyan
No,
for,
it's
yeah.
okay. And I want to understand. So if there's no provisional authority, in the meantime,
Nakaano po yan, ma'am. Meron po kaming nire-report. Depende po yan sa mga
kasi
generation company when they apply with the ERC.
Yeah.
Pinapaalam naman po yan, ma'am, yung progress
Oo.
ng
Okay.
point-to-point connection kasi minsan matagal po yung schedule ng hearing. Minsan po may mga technical papers pa na dapat madami pang tanong. So, I think si Comresi can, yeah.
Madam Chair, Mr. Senator, I think for P2P, what we did initially is we subjected it to summary proceedings so that it would not have to take the entire a year for us to complete the hearings and then we can give the authority. Secondly po, P2P is now under EVOS. So we have 270 days within which to resolve the application. Hopefully, we only have 2 P2P applications as of now under the EVOS portal. Wala pa naman po nag-expire. We're trying to meet the 270 po. So, meron naman pong ano ngayon sa P2P, may improvements naman po on the resolution.
So ma'am, hopeful kami dahil may EVOS and malaki po yung tulong. Pero syempre, we talk from, we're basing it from experience. Yung may mga pending po na P2P hanggang ngayon, may mga ganun po. So talagang matagal ho. So that's one. And then meron po kaming mga grid code issues na hindi po rin nare-resolve kasi wala po tayong grid management committee din. So matagal din pong nakatenga rin yan. So that's one. And then to my second point, so we support the ERC. Yes, ma'am.
Second point, this
Management committee po.
grid management committee doesn't exist.
As of now, I think 2018 po siya nung mawala. But for cases na we need to investigate
Ad hoc lang.
ng medyo urgent, what we did was to create, I think, an interim grid management committee. So that one now is, meron po dun mga kaso katulad po dun sa mga panay na event, yon. But yung pong institutionalizing again, that arm, that technical arm of the commission, wala nga po yun as of now.
What is the reason na wala siya?
I think before po ang naging issue po is yung creation niya because naging private entity po siya na nag-register sa SEC. Tapos ang mga naging members po are industry players din, mga GenCos and everything. And the funding comes from ano rin po, distribution utilities and the transmission company po.
But it should be ERC.
We tried to propose a new division po to DBM for purposes of, yun nga po, i-compensate namin yung nawalang GMC and DMC. Maging, ano na po, nasa loob na, naging kasama po sa structure, hindi pa lang po yun approved.
Was that part of your submission to the energy budget?
I think it's pending po with DBM, ano? The restructuring po with DBM.
Pero normally kasi from my experience in the other budget committees that I chair, you work directly with the budget chair and then DBM para napupush din nung budget chairman yung priority nyo na yun. If it's a priority, if it's not a priority, di wala rin kayong support na nakukuha from the chairman of the subcommittee. FYI. Okay.
Yeah, just to also expound a little bit further, ma'am. Yun nga, yung sa grid management committee po, there is an interim but it only has limited scope in terms of investigating yung panay issue, etc. But it does not have the authority to review the grid code, which has a lot of issues that we need to resolve. Particularly dun sa names ng ancillary services. Meron kasi yung 2016 grid code po, iba po yung terms, pero ang ginagamit po natin iba rin ngayon. So madami po siyang, alam po yun ni Asek Mario at ng mga engineer dito, madami po siyang kailangan talagang suyurin at tignan ng maayos. Pati po yung mga frequency, lahat po yan, isa-isahin talaga. So yan po yung inaantay namin na kailangan pong ma-address. Kasi kung hindi po maayos yung ating grid code, medyo yung policy rin natin tsaka yung regulation, hindi rin magiging in sync, di ba po? So, yun po, one of the things that I think is under the ERC purview. Number two, our number 2 point, most especially, is the public offer requirement. This has been pending since forever, and I think Senator Gatchalian fully knows about it. To the extent that it needed a bill, we have submitted, we maintain our position that the ERC can actually interpret this. However, yeah, we have we have submitted also to the joint commission, Joint Congressional Energy Commission, ma'am, for its opinion on the public offer requirement. Yeah, it's very important, ma'am, because this affects also our permitting, our COC, and we cannot, just continue doing the provisional authority, the provisional permits. So those things need to be addressed ASAP because it has been years, and we even took time to explain to a lot of administrations already how the energy business works and how the parent company works, how layering works, how business units and how developers work. So if there could be at least a resolution on this item. So our permitting will not be affected, and we would greatly appreciate it, ma'am. Third and lastly, we have some concerns also on Senate Bill 1612, which proposes the government's return to the power generation. We want to go back to the mandate of the EPIRA, which was passed to privatize the generation sector. So we all know that construction of power plants is very capital intensive, and we would like government efforts to focus on better policy building, and also better regulations and investment opportunities for the generation. There, ma'am. Oh, sorry. One more thing with regard to ERC, ma'am, and PSAs. We would like to see, and actually we maintain our position and support to the DOE that the CSP policy is already good enough. As long as it is proven that all the participants in that CSP complied with the guidelines of the DOE, then obviously the mandate of the ERC is to just take a look if we fully complied with the CSP. To benchmark, I was alarmed earlier. Benchmarking is also very tricky because it depends on the technology of the power plant and the risk profile of the DU. So in that respect, maybe we can just discuss it, and we always work with the DOE anyway, but we fully support the CSP policy of the DOE, and we believe that that is already a good enough policy. It just gets tangled with approval because it's sometimes not honored or sometimes slashed, or the CSP. Yes, if you examine it to the very detail, we get it. Yes, but the reason why the DOE is there because there's already a policy guideline, and if you comply with it and the mandate of the DOE, then ERC approval should already be ministerial in function, because they're supposed to work together, your regulator and your policy maker. So that's it, ma'am. Thank you.
Just because you already went ahead and mentioned actually the bill of Senator Gatchalian, Senate Bill number 486, which is removing the public offering requirement. Can I hear from DOE and ERC very quickly on this? Because this is a two-page bill, so this can be handled separately, and we can already anyone is welcome to submit their position paper if you haven't included that. But quickly, DOE and ERC.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, Madam Chair and Senator Gatchalian. Yeah, the DOE fully supports the review of this policy. Yes, thank you very much.
Support
Of
nyo.
course, sir, kasama dun yung pagpo-process, including the processing. So we support
No,
that
what do you mean by
this
process?
public offering will be reviewed, and should it be,
So wala ka pang position?
no, we support for that bill, in short.
Oh, so you support. So you
Yeah, po.
support the removal of that requirement, the
Yeah.
public offering.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you prepared? Are you prepared? If you're not prepared, then tell me you're not prepared.
Actually
to
po
tell
kasi
me today.
it's outside po doon sa ERC bill, kaya ang DOE hindi nag-provide ng official
Okay, no
statement
problem.
dito.
So just let us know.
Thank
It's
you.
very simple. I don't mind if you get back to us on. You're right. We said we will prioritize the ERC regulation, so no problem. But do let us know. Anyone else is prepared to say something on this? So you can also submit if you don't want to take it. Yeah. Did you want to say something?
Madam Chair,
Attorney?
on the BOR, the ERC fully supports the bill po. The
Ah,
removal.
okay. All right. Okay. Okay, thank you. So let's move on to RESA, Retail Electricity Suppliers Association. Mr. Roseus, you have 5 minutes, and then after that we'll go to Meralco, also Philreca. So let me now call on Mr. Roseus.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Senator Gatchalian. I'll keep it short based on the directions of the Chair. We support the strengthening of the ERC. We leave it up to the DOE and ERC to work on the details. However, we take the opportunity that we raise a concern on a provision that prohibits a distribution utility from operating also as a retail supplier. we will provide you the position paper, and we can take your offer that will meet your staff, because among the industry players, we are the newest one. Marami kaming nuances that I think we need to expound further, and it will take so much of the committee's time. So we'll just ask for a time with your office. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. We'll set that. Okay, so let's now call on Meralco, Mr. Fernandez.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, Senator Gatchalian. We only have two major general comments. First, we support the strengthening of the ERC. We support proposals to provide additional resources and improve the processes of the regulator. If the industry needs timely investments, the industry also needs timely decisions from the regulators and the policymakers. We would also recommend, though, that because when you provide resources, it's usually to meet a certain objective, and this objective should be time frames in coming out with those decisions. So we already have the Energy Virtual One-Stop Shop and the Anti-Red Tape Act. They have time frames for decisions, but not all of the actions of the ERC are within the EVOS and the ARTA. So, for example, CAPEX applications, PSA applications, rate applications, they're not within the scope of EVOS and ARTA. So our proposal is to prescribe the same time frames for ERC to act on those applications as already provided in EVOS and ARTA. So this will give us a better view of what kind of resources will be needed for the Commission to be able to act within those time frames. Second, Madam Chair, is to clarify the jurisdiction of the ERC with respect to other agencies. So one is the Philippine Competition Commission, the other is PESA, the other is DOE for direct connect applications, and the other is with regular courts for the criminal provisions of the Anti-Pilferage Act. So ngayon ho, there's some confusion over which entities are responsible for which activities. So like one example is the Philippine Competition Commission. So our proposal is really to clarify the delineation so that the industry also is not confused, and it will also serve to decongest ERC if we can clarify what can already be devolved to other agencies and reduce their regulatory burden. So we'll provide written comments for this, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that. Let's now go to Philippine Rural Electric Cooperatives Association, PhilReca, Ms. Clarice Santos, and then please be ready. PEPOA, do I say that right? PEPOA, and then NGCP. Okay, Ms. Santos.
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Chair and Senator Reid. So, of course, we fully support the proposed amendments for the proposed Senate bills for the amendments of EPIRA, especially on enhancing the structure of ERC. But in addition to what was mentioned a while ago by Nia, we would just like to raise, of course, the one of the concerns raised to us by for our member electric cooperatives, which is the pending applications for the capital expenditures. So this is besides the power supply agreement. So as of date, out of 121 electric cooperatives, we have 62 electric cooperatives with pending applications for capex. So out of these 62 electric cooperatives, one application goes as far back as 2011. So that would be around 13 years already. So although we are in direct coordination, the electric cooperatives and PhilReca with ERC, of course, what we also receive is only the concern on their manpower and on budget. So there really is the concern on the electric cooperative side. Of course, they cannot improve on their distribution facilities. So that, of course, affects the service that they provide to the member consumer owners. That's all, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that. So as I mentioned, let's go now to PEPOA, and then after that, NGCP. Attorney Ocampo.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Senator Gatchalian, and to the resource persons present in this hearing. Uh, uh, PIPOA is in support of the proposed bill to restructure the Energy Regulatory Commission. We have just three suggestions on how we can implement this. Number one, in the restructuring of the commission, we suggest that the anti-red tape authority be also tasked to assist in the restructuring of the commission, so that there will be a check because in restructuring there is a tendency for the regulator to micromanage the operations of the regulated entities, and this micromanagement tends to increase the cost of compliance of the regulated entities, so much so that they have to put up their own compliance department. No? So, so in tasking the ARTA to assist the Commission in restructuring, we can perhaps filter out those regulations that are already bordering in micromanagement. Secondly, with regards to the cases that are pending before the Commission, the nature of cases pending before the Commission are quasi in rem, meaning the decisions of the Commission on these cases are binding upon the whole world. So during the proceedings, the public is notified of a case that is filed before the Commission. So the public is given the opportunity to participate in these public hearings of these cases. Now, more often, these cases, when they are heard by the Commission, no intervenors or oppositors come in to register in these public hearings, except maybe for the bigger ones like Meralco and GCP. But for the other utilities, when their cases are heard before the Commission, there are hardly any intervenors or oppositors that are registering in the pending case. So I would suggest that for cases that there are no registered intervenors or oppositors, that they be also be considered under the summary procedure, meaning once these cases are submitted for resolution, that there be a timeline provided, probably 90 days or 180 days from the time they are submitted for resolution. And if there is no action from the Commission, that they should be deemed approved already for implementation. So that can take out a lot of the backlog at the Commission. Now, finally, the third suggestion, if the committee will consider, is that in the filling up of the vacancy at the Commission, we would suggest that priority consideration be given from the rank and file of the Commission instead of appointing somebody from the outside of the Commission. The reason being is that the staff of the Commission have already been trained to do regulation and rate making. So they already have a working knowledge of the subject matter. And when they are appointed to become a commissioner, they do not have to go through a learning curve. Well, the power industry is a very complicated industry, so that if you appoint somebody from outside the commission, they have to study the industry and the dynamics, and they have to study the technical matters such as rate making. So it will take time for them to get familiar with the subject matter. And this is probably one of the main cause of the lag in the resolution of pending cases. So those are the three suggestions that we have for people. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you also for all of that. So let's now go to NGCP, Attorney Leonor Alabanza, and then please be ready, NPC and NTC.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Senator Gatchalian. NGCP is a highly regulated entity. In fact, I think our last regulatory reset process was approved in 2009, and that ended in 2015. So we are now working on an interim allowable revenue, and this revenue is very important to us because we are revenue capped. We welcome any improvements to the ERC structure especially if it will result in an objective, timely, and fair regulatory process, considering that we have around 115 pending capex projects with ERC. Some of them have already been completed and energized, many of them ongoing. And the timely action on these projects is now made more relevant in view of the ERC, of the Supreme Court ruling prohibiting NGCP from implementing projects without ERC approval. So that underlines the importance of the regulatory process for the transmission service provider. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that. NPC, Miss Beverly Estela.
Good morning. Good morning, Madam Chair. I'm Bernadette Rivera, Manager of the Strategic and Business Planning Division of NAPOCOR. Senator Win, good afternoon po. On the part of NPC, we fully support the proposal to strengthen the governance structure of the ERC. Our long-standing issue with the ERC pertain to the timeliness of our rate applications because, Madam Chair, it is the National Power Corporation that's administering the universal charge for missionary electrification. So kami po yung power provider sa mga maliliit na isla, tsaka off-grid islands. And in these areas, it's the NAPOCOR and the private power providers po ang providers ng kuryente doon. On the part ng NPC, ang naiiwan na lang po sa amin yung mga maliliit na mga isla at saka mga lugar na mga hindi po kinuha ng private sector. So yung mga malalaking isla po katulad ng Mindoro, Palawan, Masbate, Catanduanes, mga private sector na po ang nandyan. At ang role po namin ay yung pagbibigay sa kanila ng universal charge for missionary electrification subsidy. At on the part naman ng NPC, may pangangailangan din po kami para i-maintain yung operations namin sa missionary areas na to. Yung long-standing issue po namin sa ERC, we have rate applications as far back as 10 years ago, and this was emphasized noon pong 2022 when we had a fuel crisis, noon pong nagkaroon ng Russia-Ukraine war, and that's because 99% of the generation in these missionary areas are diesel generated. Kaya po nung tumaas yung presyo ng fuel, ay talaga naman pong affected kami doon, and we made a lot of lobbying for both houses of Congress, the lower house and the Senate, with regard to our deficit in the budget. And ang worry lang po namin with regard to the timeliness of the approval of applications, yun pong scenario namin noong 2022, nung nagkaroon kami ng deficit. In fact, tumawid po yun ng 2023. At dahil hindi po kami nagkaroon ng timeliness ng approval sa UC, kinailangan po ng gobyerno na mangutang ng 15 billion para lang tustusan yung pangangailangan, not just for NPC but also the private sector. Ang worry lang po namin, ngayong 2025, ganun na naman po ang scenario dahil we have rate applications as far back as 2017 that's pending with the incurred cost na po kasi ito, Madam Chair. So, nire-recover na lang po namin, and kung hindi po kasi timely yung pag-approve, naging in question po yung sustainability ng operations, not just for NPC but also the private sector. So, nagsalita na po yung presidente namin, we need 11.5 billion by 2025. At kung hindi po kami makakuha ng approval sa lalong madaling panahon, ay mapipilitan po kami magkaroon ng rotational brownout siguro kung hindi mapupunaan yon as early as March of 2025. And it's not a good scenario, Madam Chair, because it's an election year for next year. And the good news, Madam Chair, and we had word already from ERC, may inaayos na po silang approval na ilalabas, and we're just hoping, Madam Chair, na sana timely yung paglabas na yon within the year para po pumasok na yung cash flow as soon as possible para po maibsan yung deficit na ina-expect namin within first quarter of next year. Other than, Madam Chair, other than the rate applications, ang other concern na lang po namin is yung permitting requirements na nabanggit naman po ng ERC kanina, and not just for for example, the COCs and the permit to operate for the SPAG plants, but also yung nakapending din po ng new power providers with them, because that's also the basis for us to provide them the subsidies, the UCME subsidies that they require for their operations. Nagiging siste lang po, it's not just for NPC, pagka po nagkulang yung pera, para bigyan ng subsidy, even the private power providers, pati po sila tumitigil yung, or nagbabadya na tumigil yung operations pagka po hindi sila whole. So yun po sana yung tulong na gusto namin, Madam Chair, Senator Win. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much. So let's go to National Transmission Corporation, Engineer Lanes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Senator Win. As far as Transco is concerned, we likewise support the proposed bill to restructure the Energy Regulatory Commission. Now, also as already discussed by Attorney Ann of PIPA, we would like to manifest that since it is part of the ERC's function to issue or issue this Philippine Grid Code and Philippine Distribution Code, of which there used to be this Grid Management Committee and Distribution Management Committee that takes charge of the amendments to these two codes. We would like also to propose that in the bill to formally create these two organizations, which will be under the direct supervision of the Energy Regulatory Commission. We will submit our formal comment on this, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's now hear from PISAM, Mr. Dennis De La Serna.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Senator Win. We have a few comments. Number one, we are in support of the ERC restructuring bill. I would like to add there that maybe a formula can be provided for the fiscal autonomy that ERC is asking for. Number two, with regards to Ms. Rivero's comments on their role, I also wanted to highlight that their role also is with regards to watershed management, and there are also pending applications for the universal charge for environmental charge, which are pending at the ERC, and the monies are also pending at PISAM. Now, purely for a PISAM concern, Madam Chair, if you allow me, the EPIRA provision on separation and benefits. For the corporations created under EPIRA, they do receive separation benefits, but for PISAM, which for the corporate life that ends in 2026, we do not receive a similar benefit. So we're seeking an amendment wherein for corporations that have an end of life or a restructuring or a reorganization, separation and benefits are also given to those type of corporations created under EPIRA. Thank you, Madam Chair, Senator Win.
Thank you. And then I think this is our final speaker, final resource person today, Center for Energy Research and Policy, Attorney Noel Baga.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairperson and Senator Gatchalian. We have the following comments and recommendations. We support the Senate bills on strengthening the ERC. We propose the establishment of a Consumer Protection Office, Consumer Advocacy Office within the ERC, which would assist consumers in the filing of complaints and actions before the ERC and represent and appear on behalf of consumers before the ERC. There have been previous legislative bills in previous Congresses regarding this Consumer Advocacy Office, and we are hoping that it would be passed this Congress, Madam Chairperson. We support the removal of the public offering requirement for power generation companies. We oppose the government participation in power generation. We also propose that we also propose for the ERC to be required to amend the Philippine Distribution Code and the National Grid Code. We believe this is urgent, Madam Chairperson. On the amendment of the Philippine Distribution Code, we proposed strengthening the ERC's regulatory powers over grid management and operations of the system operator, of the transmission system operator, including a review of the automatic load dropping procedures and the manual load dropping procedures within the PDC. There was much controversy on this, Madam Chairperson, during the Senate hearing in January 2024 regarding the Panay Island total blackout for 4 days. And one of the main issues was whether the system operator, the NGCP, was required to undertake automatic load dropping procedures or manual load dropping procedures earlier. So there was much debate over this, and this needs to be clear within the PDC. We advocate for stronger ERC regulatory powers over power plant maintenance and operations. Several studies indicate that almost half of our power plants are more than 20 years old, and we have seen several times, Madam Chairperson, how several power plants simultaneously break down, Madam Chairperson. So we think that the public deserves better than this. We advocate for stronger ERC regulatory powers over ensuring the timely completion of grid interconnection projects. For example, regarding the Cebu Negros Panay Island interconnection project, this was delayed, Madam Chairperson, for 2 years before it was completed, Madam Chair. And many studies indicate that had this CNP3 interconnection project been completed on time, perhaps this could have helped prevent what happened in the Panay Island total blackout. So we recommend those. We also recommend, Madam Chairperson, the amendment of the WESM rules to increase competition, lower electricity prices, and to prevent market collusion and market irregularities, Madam Chairperson. We still have very high electricity prices in the Philippines. Studies indicate that WESM's prices are still very high, and measures have to be adopted to reduce these prices and to address market irregularities, Madam Chairperson. There have been studies which indicate that there are allegations of hoarding or deliberate withholding of power supply. So we seek to address these issues, Madam Chairperson. And we also propose for the amendment of the competitive selection process, the bidding rules on the power supply procurement of distribution utilities, procurement of power supply from power generation companies, Madam Chairperson. We hope that the CSP bidding rules would be amended to establish a transparent and uniform bidding rules that would ensure minimal discretion on the part of distribution utilities and would prevent the tailor fitting of bid requirements on the part of distribution utilities in favor of their affiliate power generation companies. And we would like to propose for the mandatory attendance or participation of representatives of the affected local communities concerned during the CSP competitive selection process, bidding process, which affect their franchise area, Madam Chairperson. These are our recommendations, and we shall submit a position paper on this, Madam Chairperson. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Yeah, of all the resource persons, you're the one I will require to submit a position paper. Sa dami ng sinabi ko, hindi ko na nasundan lahat. Yung iba, 3 points, kaya pa ng brain ko ma-absorb. No, they're very good points. That's why I do want to see it in writing. Thank you. Thank you. You have the floor. Questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Resi, I think we can sum up the reactions of our resource persons. Ay, tumatango ka na, I think alam mo na yung sasabihin natin. yung delays in the approvals, also delays in the reset. No, I think the reset is one of the most important activities of the Energy Regulatory Commission because it gives, first of all, it determines the appropriate rates that the entity should charge, and at the same time, there's an opportunity to lower down the rates because of the variables in the formula. And both the approvals of the PSAs and the others and the resets are delayed. So, since we're now talking about strengthening ERC, how do we, or what proposals do you have to finally eliminate all of these delays? Because like what our chairperson said, the delays have repercussions. It has domino effects, in project financing, in planning of the actual putting up of power plants, even new power. It affects all of this. So finally, what proposals do you have in order to completely eliminate the delays and correct all of these deficiencies that the ERC is experiencing now and in the past?
Mr. Madam Chair, Mr. Senator, I think it's embodied in the two major points that we raised earlier. First is to allow ERC to conduct periodic restructuring and reorganization, which, for clarification with the team, what we were envisioning is at least every 5 years we are able to reassess our complement and do some adjustments. Also, with the limited fiscal autonomy, which will provide us at least budget for some employee benefits, because as I've said, we are now competing with the private entities within the industry when it comes to salary levels and benefits that they are able to offer to the staff from the Energy Regulatory Commission. And also, I think our focus now will be on at least making our staff enough in number and also enough in quality or competency.
When I was looking at your budget for the last many years, I noticed that you hire consultants. You have, I think, 400 million pesos purely on consultants. This is for resets, this is for other things, but the activities are recurring, meaning resets are done on a periodic manner. The approvals of PSAs are done on a periodic manner. My question is, why not build our own capacity? Because the hiring of consultants also take time. You have to undergo public bidding. And I understand in some cases there are failure of biddings that happen. And in effect, it delayed the entire process. So is it possible that we build our own capability, meaning get engineers, get economists, get a lot of technical people, because largely these are technical activities. Can we build our own technical team so that we do away with the bidding, and since we do it on a recurring manner, in effect, in sabi nga ni Attorney Rani, you build your expertise and your competency over time rather than getting different consultants whenever you have a reset or you have an activity.
Chair, Madam Chair, Mr. Senator, in terms of consultants po, the reset, the one for the distribution utility and the transmission company, we do employ consultants po. And to address yung sana magkaroon ng knowledge transfer so that we have an in-house na experts na nakalagay po sa bawat kontrata ng consultancy na magkakaroon dapat nun. Ang idea nga po is, pag iniwan kayo ng consultant, kahit pa paano, meron na kayong na-acquire na competency on the expertise na hinire nyo siya for that. Sa ngayon po, yun lang po muna yung nagagawa namin. But hindi po kasi minsan nangyayari na yung mga na-train na, nag-stay. Yun po yung mga nagiging problema namin. Minsan nagiging, lang po kami, possible source of assets for other companies once we have already trained them. Marami po kami naging experience na gano'n. Classic example na lang po is when we did the PBR, we were 10. I was one of the original PBR. But after the first regulatory reset, parang 2 or 3 lang po kaming natira. So, lahat po nakaalis na. And doon naman po sa ibang task namin, we are fortunate enough to have grants and aids po from other agencies para yun pong mga rule making na medyo nagte-take ng time ng staff, napapa-study po namin through that consultant given by either USAID, UNDP, ganun po, sir. As of now, yun pa lang po yung nagagawa namin. But yun nga po, our hope is kapag nakakaroon kami ng reorg and we have the right salary and benefits for our people, we can hire the right people and at the same time have budget to continuously train them for competency, and by that po, we will be able to do away with consultants po.
I remember one of the proposals when, Madam Chair, I actually drafted a ERC charter, an ERC charter. So it's a standalone charter that will hopefully strengthen the ERC. And I remember during the consultation with ERC, one of the proposals is to exempt it from the salary standardization law. The same with the PCC. No? Ang PCC exempted, di ba? Kaya mas mataas ang sweldo nyo sa amin lahat eh. No? No? Biro lang. No? But as PCC is a regulator. Diba? ERC is also a regulator. No? And the reason why typically we exempt the regulator from the typical salary standardization is to make it beyond reproach, or make the regulator or to prevent the regulator to be captured because their salary is above industry, or their salary is above the typical salary grade of government. No? So I'm sure that will help. No? But is that still a proposal that you think can improve the capability, the retention? Kasi yun ang nagiging problema eh, retention of talent, developing the capability, and I would assume that's a function of incentives and the salary being given.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Mr. Senator, as I've said po kanina, we are exempted from the salary standardization law, but our rates are lower compared to other regulators po.
Sabi nga ni Chair, is useless in pagka-exemption nyo. Maybe we can put that in the charter ready. Because, Madam Chair, the total electric power industry is 500 billion pesos. It's about 630 billion pesos and growing. No? As our economy grows, the electric power industry grows as well. But if you look at the budget of ERC, and tayo lang actually nag-increase nito in the last Congress, napako na siya at 600 to about 900 million pesos. No? It's always the Senate that intervenes. We always add about 200 to the budget of ERC. But with 900 million pesos managing or regulating 630 billion pesos, it's really not enough. No? And because of the operational issues such as retaining talent, developing talent, we see a lot of operational problems in the electric power industry. No? So we can embed all of those suggestions here in the amendments that the committee is doing, and the objective really is to make ERC efficient, capable, and responsive. No? And let's take this opportunity, Commissioner, to finally strengthen ERC. I recommended to the Commission is to, during the budget season, during the budget hearing, is to mag-camping muna kayo to reflect, no, what changes you can make in order to strengthen the Commission. But I think now is the time. No? There's now an opportunity to finally strengthen the regulator, and I support that. I support a strong regulator. I support a strong, independent, as well as efficient regulator. Yan talaga kailangan natin. I think partly why the whole country is not realizing low power rates is because also the regulator, and with all due respect, with all due respect, is the regulator is not as efficient as what we want. No? may pagkukulang rin ng national government because we're not giving you the budget and the salary that you require. But I think that's the missing link in order to fully realize lower electricity rates. No? So let's take this opportunity, Commissioner. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So thank you everybody for your time. I need to commend everyone here. It's one of the first hearings that I didn't have to lecture someone to follow my rule, which is don't read your position paper to me. You're all very obedient resource persons, and I thank you for that. I think you're very used to articulating your needs, and that's why you were able to work within my parameters. I really appreciate it because I will fall asleep if you read your position paper. The time to do that is when I'm alone with my team or wherever. The time here was to do exactly what we did in very efficient time. I'm assuming you're all very busy people, so I'm happy that we finished in a reasonable amount of time. We will suspend and then we will have follow-up hearings or TWGs because it is urgent for us to pass a bill that empowers, regulates, streamlines ERC's roles, jurisdiction, whatever is needed, and we are limited by the reality that this is going to happen when the Senate is in the budget season already. So almost the entire month of November we handle the budget and then a bit of December. But the goal is to try to get this done before the year ends so that we have time to get it done. I mean the bill, the committee report, and hopefully on the floor to start some debates, so we can pass this. I don't know. I don't want to say December, but let's see, January. Yes.
For us to prepare our position in all the issues, are we going to include also the issues mentioned that are beyond the ERC chapter?
Yeah, so your priority is ERC. So I would suggest that everybody start focusing on that. You can also provide reactions to what you've heard from other resource persons. You may have made your point clear, but somebody gave a contrary and you want to rub it in that you oppose that. You can do that. Let's focus on ERC. For DOE and ERC, you may react to any. If you want, just put it in a separate position paper so it doesn't take as much time. But like Attorney Baga mentioned, a lot of issues. That's more than welcome. I'm happy to be, to understand these issues better. Maybe have meetings to discuss this. But as I said, the priority is ERC. Okay. So thank you very much, everyone. I hope you still have the rest of your day to go back to work and prepare your final position papers on this. Thank you so much. This hearing is suspended.